Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show. I am your host, Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And the purpose of this talk show is to bring in women and men who are living life on their own terms, and they're using the Slay philosophies to make a positive impact in this world. So I have another Slay Amazing guest tonight, y'all. And so just get yourselves prepared and ready. And so if you're just joining in with us, understand that when I say slay, it is the basis of what I do every single day. Slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, to dream big and work hard until you own it is also an acronym. And the acronym is about universal life and leadership philosophies that really resonate and help us to propel, have that vision that we can have for ourselves and achieve the success that we're looking for. So S stands for stay ready to be ready. L, lead out loud. A sense of community. And Y, you are built to last. And as you know, I help and support, advise, if you will, women, professionals, and organizations to achieve professional success with focusing on impact and image in appearance, behaviors, communication, and digital presence. And I do that in a number of different ways. And so tonight, y'all, I just want you to know that I have a great guest, okay? And it's almost as if we are sisters from another mister. We live in the same location, if you will, in the DMV area. So if you are joining us tonight, just go ahead and drop it into the chat. Let us know that you're here. So I give you a shout out. Hey, Chevy, how you doing, Queen? So thank you so much for joining us here live tonight. So if you all are here, just let us know so that way we can welcome you into the show. You know, we have conversation in here. All right. So if you are here, just let us know, and that way we can give you a shout out. All right. So my guest tonight, y'all, she is absolutely amazing. Her name is Sadija Smiley. Now, Sadija Smiley is the founder and CEO of Stillborn and Infant Loss Support, the acronym SELLS. It's an organization dedicated to supporting families affected by miscarriages, stillbirth, and other pregnancy losses. After the stillbirth of her daughter, Ivyanna, in 2003, Sadija founded SELLS in 2017 to honor her memory and provide compassionate care to those that are navigating grief. With over 6 years of operation and more than 600 families served, Sadija's leadership has transformed SELLS from a basement initiative to a vital resource center. Her commitment to community building, education, and support drives SELLS' mission to improve the mental health and well-being of bereaved families. So put your hands together for me, you all, for my guest, Sadija. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining me tonight on the show. And we just saw each other a few weeks ago. You attended the Own the Room workshop. Yes, y'all. Like, look, we getting it all together. All right. And so we just saw each other, and I've already seen some changes, happening after that session. But what you do and how you do it is so needed. And, I just want you to share with our audience a little bit about yourself, kind of where you grew up, kind of, what led you. And I've already shared kind of what it led for you, but just kind of give us a feel of who Sadija really is.
Yeah. So, it's funny. Hey, Chevy and I just connected on LinkedIn. Hey, Chevy.
Look,
Let's
that's
connections.
what, yes, that's what it's all about. People.
Absolutely. So as Rochelle said, I'm Sadija. I was born and raised in West Philly. It's funny when I say that, I think about the Fresh Prince song. So yeah, so on the playground is where I spend most of my days.
Right.
But
I
yeah,
love that.
in Philly. I'm a city girl through and through. I've been here now in the Maryland area or DC in between for about 10 some odd years. And so it affords me the opportunity to be close to home, not too far. And I'm a city girl, and I love being here. I love nonprofits. I love nonprofit leadership and the impact and mission driven work. I've worked in a couple of different industries for a very minimal time. I've been in the nonprofit sector for over 20 years. I spent maybe 2 months at a bank and 2 months in retail, and it just was not. It was not for me. I quickly found myself in mission-driven work, starting off at the WIC office. Many don't know
Wow.
WIC office is, Women, Infants, and Children is actually a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started off there and was away at college. I was 21 years old at the time when I was pregnant with my first daughter, Ivyanna. And as you heard through the bio, unfortunately, she didn't make it Earthside. I carried her for 9 months, so we did get some time together. We had McDonald's French fries and laughed and danced, and she was with us for a little over 9 months. And so a very difficult time and a tragic time to have to carry her, deliver her, and not be able to take her home. Young
Mm.
girl, 21 years old, a junior in college, it was a lot to manage, mentally and physically, emotionally,
Mhm.
financially, and all those factors. And so, having gone through that and gotten to a point where I felt not even equipped, I felt the courage to talk about it,
Mhm.
talking about it. Other women and even men too mentioned their experience with losing their baby either during pregnancy or shortly after. And I met quite a few families that had to make the difficult decision to terminate their pregnancy based
Mhm.
an illness that the baby had. And so just understanding how many people were going through this that didn't have the support that they needed and that would have been helpful for them. I got to a space where I felt again the courage to start something, and that's where Cells was born. And we started, as you mentioned, in the base. I'm in my basement home office now, so although we have an office space physically, I'm still at home in this office where it all started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
That is amazing. The and I know like loss comes in different stages, kind of how you had to your journey still through that. Um but to take that pain that you felt and now turn it into purpose is really something that I know that when we have that passion for something that we have been affected by, that we truly care for our clients, the parents, in your case, of who, is coming to you because we know what it feels like. You know what I mean? And so we've got Chevy here who says she loves WIC. She definitely used it for her first two, but then she made $25 over the requirements, so she didn't receive it for her third child. Whew. And then, she said sorry for you to hear about your loss as well. So, I know there are many, many families who have gone through this journey or going through the journey. So, what are the things, kind of, from your experience and then for the nonprofit, what do you share with your families now um, to help them?
Yeah, so we offer grief support groups, and
Mhm.
they can either be online or in person. You can either go through the grief recovery program as an individual with one on one with me, or in a group where you have other parents and family members that are also on this journey. One of the things that I like to remind our families and individuals is that even though you might feel alone, you're not by yourself. So a
Right.
lot of it is community building, just letting folks know that they're not alone, sharing stories so that they have a glimpse of hope and can see what it looks like to be on the other side. and what it looks like to carry that grief with you day to day. We also help to cover the cost of the burial or cremation, depending on what
Mm,
the family decides.
yeah.
Most folks are saving for college if they are already yet. They spent their money on baby showers. No one's planning for a funeral. And if a lot of times, sometimes rather, folks are like how I was, where this was my first introduction to death and funeral planning and death care. And so if you don't really know what that looks like, and in the midst of losing your child, you need a companion. And so we offer that companionship to help walk through the process of how they want to lay their baby to rest, whether they want to cremate or a service, or do they want cremation jewelry, whatever it is that the family decides. We walk through them with that.
Yeah. You know, I worked in a labor and delivery unit when I was at Bitburg Air Base in Germany, and we did lose, unfortunately, lost some babies. And I never really thought about the aftercare. You know what I mean? Like, what did that look like? And based on your experience and kind of where you're at right now, what did you learn about yourself through this?
Ooh, I learned that I was definitely stronger than I thought, because
Mm,
I didn't think I was going to make it. It was just so heavy.
yeah.
Um, and I learned that I could speak up and ask for help. I was not, and still in some ways, I'm not the kind of person that will ask for help when things get really heavy. But
Mhm.
I learned that asking for help was actually a strength and not a weakness.
Yeah.
I learned that help and support can come from many different ways, and strangers and family members alike.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that this taught me, is that you don't have to know somebody personally or be related to them by blood for them to support you. Um, I learned that there just are so many people, and that by sharing my story, as painful as it is, because it
Mm,
still is to this day, as
yeah.
painful as it is, I learned that it's freedom for me and it's freedom for the person hearing it, right? Because
Yeah.
I get to share, and every time I share, I get to say my daughter's name. I get to remind people that she exists, or let people know that didn't know that she exists. And then the other person on that's listening to it, that has been through this, gets some validation and confirmation without even have to ask. Because once you've been on this journey, there's just so many things that and you can kind of feel for other people, where they don't have to go into details. Most people will be like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, well, what happened, how did it? But when you've been through it, those questions are not as helpful, and so you don't
Yeah.
ask those. And so it's a lot more comforting when you've been through it and you connect with somebody that has. And just like, I learned the power of community. Like, we say, well, for me, I'll speak for myself. I say that, but when you
Yeah.
really get in community, and you can cry and you can laugh and you can hug and not be judged, right? Because
Yeah.
we feel so guilty. We think we did something wrong. It was my fault. I shouldn't have ate this. I shouldn't have drank that. Maybe I shouldn't have worked out. All of
Mm,
these lists of things. But when you get around community and people who really want to be there in the best way they can, there's no judgment.
yeah. I love that. You know, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you um was during this journey and your involvement with the families. Do you see the disparities with the communities, is particularly Black women, when it comes to medical care? And because I have read studies and done some research and saw there's a very high mortality rate, either of the mother or the child or both, during pregnancy. So, what is your discovery? What information do you have on that?
Yeah, definitely the disparity. Black women are twice as likely, a little more than twice, as like 2.5 times as likely as our white counterparts, to lose our babies and not be taken serious. Like, I didn't realize um, until after I lost my daughter, the conversation that I had with the doctor when I called them to tell them that I hadn't felt my daughter move, they didn't say, "Oh, come in right away," or "Something could be wrong, you should come in." It was, "Oh, well, drink a cold glass of water, call us back in 30 minutes." And and I'm telling you that I haven't felt my baby move. Like, for me, I would think
Mm.
that's an emergency, but this is a doctor, right? And so I'm following their instructions because they're the professional. But
Right.
Black women are not take we're not taken serious. We, for whatever reason, doctors and medical professionals feel like our pain tolerance is so high, and they don't believe us. And even looking at the families that we serve, you read that we served over 600 families. Of
Yeah.
those families, 65% of those families are African American women. And this is
Wow.
not just the state of Maryland, right? We have served
Yeah.
families in over 20 states and 7 countries. And so that's where that number comes from. And more than half of the families are African American women. Now,
Mm.
somebody might say, "Oh, well, that's because they see you as the face and they might be led to you and feel comfortable." But as you mentioned, if you dig into the statistics, you'll see that Black women, again, are 2.5 more times likely than our white counterparts to lose our babies.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with education or income. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. It just didn't hear about it until after I retired, um, and really starting to look at, Black women as a whole and kind of, where we've been leading and kind of the things that we're going through. And for whatever reason, I started reading about the health disparities. And then they talked about maternal health. And I was like, oh my goodness, because, I had our son at the age of 37. And what, the older you get, and then on top of that, Black woman, so there's so much that goes in. I had high blood pressure, we have some genetic predisposed diseases and chronic illnesses that may attribute to something happening to you and your child. So I knew that you'd be a lot more versed in that, and understanding that this is something that really needs to be talked more about, and how do we take care of the Black woman who is carrying a child? What does that care look like? And so, in your involvement with these families that you have, what are the common discussion points that you hear, besides the guilt of, I should have been doing, or, I blame it on myself? Kind of what is their experiences? What are their experiences been like?
I think the other thing too that contributes to it is we don't talk about it, right? So
Mm,
we haven't talked within our families, and not just with our daughters or our girls. Like, this is a reproductive health issue.
mm,
It's a public health issue. Just, and I always say this, just like when we tell our kids or tell individuals, don't drink and drive, or if you drink and you're driving, you could have an accident. It's the reality of the situation that if you get pregnant, you could not bring your baby earthside. So let's talk about it. Let's discuss what are some of the warning signs. So a lot of times parents don't really know what they should have been looking for, right? Like,
yeah.
they don't know how to monitor or what's a warning sign. Sometimes some parents have felt like flutters, their baby kind of kicking pretty fast, and not knowing that the baby could have been under distress, right? So
Hmm.
that's something that we didn't know, or monitoring the movements and not counting the kicks. Counting the kicks is important, but
Yeah.
also getting to learn your baby's kicks and rhythms, right? Because
Right.
every baby is not the same. So looking
Right.
at when they're most active. But a lot of the conversation is, one, they didn't know that, after, most people think after 12 weeks you're good, right? You've
Mhm.
passed that miscarriage stage, and now you're good. So a lot of families didn't know it could happen until it happened to them, unfortunately. They also
Mm.
didn't know that it happened within their families and their friends
Ah,
until it happened to them. And then they said something, and then other women in their family, other community members said, "Well, so and so had a miscarriage. So and so's baby died at 2 months." And they had not had these discussions and conversations beforehand. So
mm.
that's a lot that comes up afterwards. And then, unfortunately, the couples, this is a huge strain on their relationships and marriages, just because no two people grieve the same. Grief is just like a fingerprint, right? And so you may not grieve the same way your partner does. And there's some conflict there because one feels the other one doesn't care as much. And, there's so it's also that tension. So we try to link couples up with therapists pretty quickly, so that they can learn to work with each other as they're both grieving in their own separate way.
Yeah. Relationships are so complex anyway, but to have a loss of a loved one, and the one that you have bonded, the bond between you two, and I have seen it, with a lot of different people who have had lost. And I was a first sergeant for many years,
Mhm.
well, 4 years in the military, and that was one of the things that I had to do was go to the hospital, and take care of the husband and the wife. And unfortunately, sometimes it ended up in divorce, or they just you know separated. They were onto one another because it was they were hurting. They were just hurting, and they didn't know how to process it very well. And a lot of people neglect to get therapy because they say they can do it on their own. And then it manifests in so many different areas of their life because they never really addressed it at that point. Do you encourage them to get the therapy that they need? How does that process look like, in your organization?
Yeah, we definitely encourage. We encourage everyone, and we especially encourage the couples because we just see again that the partner grief is so different and so complicated and complex. And we have grief support groups. They're therapeutic, but they're not therapy. And
That's
we
right.
make sure to remind our families that yes, you can come. There's some structure, there's some action. You can connect with other individuals on this journey. However, it is not therapy. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm a grief certified grief specialist. And so I can help you process that, but in
Yeah.
terms of your emotions and that is not our wheelhouse. So we remind folks, and we have several resources of therapists where we can connect them to some therapists who specialize in perinatal health, perinatal mental health, some that specialize in couples. But we encourage them immediately as soon as they feel ready. To go
Hmm.
to even when they're, I mean, even when they're not so ready, we just encourage them to reach out and just have a conversation, share with a potential therapist what you're feeling, let them, kind of guide you. And then when you guys are ready to make that connection, you will, but at least reach out initially because it's a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot.
I already, only because of some past experiences, understand the magnitude of losing a child, because it's not in the order. You know what I mean? Like, your parents are supposed to go before you. It's not in the natural order, and you were expecting to bring a baby back home. And so, there's a lot of like energy being spent on, well, I could have done this, da 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 da. But if you're not getting the appropriate level of care and therapy that you need, then there's bound to be something that happens where you can point it back to, this was never really talked about. Because there's a lot of times we just want to, you know, just put it out of our head and just want to move forward, right? And so we've got several things going on in the chat. So first of all, thank you, Denise, K. Ron, and Latresa, for showing up for us tonight here on the live. And we are talking to Sadija. She is the nonprofit organization lead for sales. And we were talking about grieving. She lost her daughter at 9 months. So we're trying to have a conversation about this. Well, not trying. We're having a conversation about therapy and the importance of it, and so forth and so on. So I've got, and Leslie's here too. I don't know if I acknowledge Leslie is here in the building as well. So Chevy has this comment for us, and it's, yes, it's hard. My
Mhm.
oldest sister lost her firstborn 8 hours after giving birth due to the back of her baby's head was open, and there was nothing that the doctor could do, so they say. So these things are happening more than not. And again, where's the discussion points? You know what I mean? So thank you, Chevy, for sharing that because we definitely need to hear these stories, as painful as they are. We definitely need to talk about it, right? Because we have our girlfriends that we are with, and the excitement of having pregnancy, and then something happens where we have to step in sometimes and provide comfort and say, so, you know, tell us, what would you have liked to hear? You
Ooh.
know, because if you know what I mean? And I feel like this is important for us to talk about. So when or if it happens, we're not losing our friends or the trust and the love and the consideration, if you will, for that. And so she said the baby was over 8 pounds. And Kayron, this is such an important topic. And she says, thank you for your transparency for this. So what would you have liked to have heard?
When people ask that question, I do two things. I help people understand what not to say and
Hmm.
what's
That's
really
right.
harmful, even though they feel like it's helpful. And then I help people with what you could say and kind of some alternatives. So a few things not to say: never, ever, ever start with your sentence with at least. At least you have other children. At least you got to hold the baby. At least you know you can get pregnant. At least anything. Anytime you start with at least, you automatically minimize the family's experience.
Hmm.
Even though I'm Christian, I go to church, I believe in God. In that moment, I do not want to hear this is God's plan for her life or for my life. It might be, and that is true, right? Because we know that. But in that moment,
In a moment.
it's
Yeah.
not helpful. It's true, but it's not helpful. So be mindful of that as well. And I'll share this, and then I'll go into what's helpful. One, someone said to me, and people were like, "What?" And to this day, God rest her soul, she said to me, "Well, at least she wasn't 5 and you didn't get to spend time with her and get to know her before she died." And I was like,
What?
"How does that make sense to you? Like, do you hear the," and I think she was well intended, right? She
Yeah, they
in her
people well
mind,
intended.
she probably is like, "Oh, because you were pregnant, you didn't get to see her, you kinda skip that process because you didn't know her," but I did know her, right? I carried her for 9 months. I knew what I wanted for her. I knew what she liked. So just being mindful of the things that you say. Some of the things that I would have loved to hear, and even now our families want to hear it, and we encourage people to say it, is, "I don't know what to say. I don't. I don't know what to say, and I'm here for you.
Yeah.
This is really hard. It's hard for you and it's hard for me because I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. I want you to know that I love you. I want you to know that this is a difficult situation. I'm praying for your family. I'm praying for you." Ask them their baby's name if they name the baby. We other outsiders may think it's painful, but it's really helpful for us to say and hear our baby's name, because the
Yeah.
number one thing that a lot of parents will say is they don't want anyone to forget about their baby.
That's
People
right.
surrounded them while they were pregnant. They were super excited, and then when the baby's not here, people back off and they kinda shy away. And so ask them if they named the baby. Do they wanna share the baby's name? What did
Yeah.
they really enjoy? What was their baby like? And again, they may cry, and that's
Mhm.
okay. They still wanna be able to share. And I think for folks to remember that your presence is what's most important. Again, you
Mm.
don't have to say anything if you don't know what to say, but physically being there, whether it's sending a meal, whether it's if they have other children, taking the other children, helping out with laundry, sending somebody over to cut the grass, because dad or the partner who's leading these other activities is also impacted. So offering ways to relieve some of the duties and the stress that the family is having is also helpful as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, stay close to them, as close as they'll allow, and you can ask, "Is this too much?" Because what typically happens with any funeral, as we know, when people die, the first week, food is coming, flowers coming, money, everything.
Everything right there.
And then a couple weeks later, everybody's back to their life, and it's like, now you're here carrying this alone. So I would encourage people to just stick around as long as the family will have you, and ask them, "Is it okay if I text you tomorrow? Is it okay if I come next week?" I wanted to go see a movie. Can we come over? Can I come over and watch Netflix with you? It doesn't always have to be as sad. It's the company because it's so lonely and so isolating.
That oof. Y'all, these are some such great tips. Not only like you said, it for any loss, right? Is and especially for folks that you're very close to, is I love the not to say at least, right? Because that just gets gets me every single time as well. And so Denise says at least, and there's a reason for everything was some of the worst comments for her. So, her going through the same and knowing that those words matter. And so when people say things, they're like you said, well intended,
Hmm.
just, not
Not
really
helpful.
thinking through thoroughly as to, and I like that. I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? Um, and being present but silent in most cases far more effective than guessing at what to say.
Yes.
Kayrana is so, so, so important. And she's also put here post service is the time presence is very needed.
Mm.
And then lastly, Mosaic Sparks, which is, Leslie. I know her as Leslie, but her organization is Mosaic Sparks. She has a YouTube channel. And
Mm.
she says this topic is a great conversation for women to take part of. Absolutely. Because back in our day, and I would say before we were born, I know for our family, we didn't talk about these things. If you lost a child from a miscarriage, you just didn't talk about it. And it comes up later on when maybe it would have been helpful if you would have shared that, you know, even though it might have scared us at some points, thinking, oh my goodness, but at least we had the information,
Mhm. Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So I agree. This topic cannot be talked more. We need to really, have like these unfiltered conversations and being very open to and honest to our reproductive, like you said, reproductive health. This is our health. And so you said you have two children. And so they know their sister. And but there are other children in different families who don't know, right? And I don't know if that's a disservice as well, you know?
Mm. I guess it depends because I think about it. I have a few friends who have gone on, like myself, to have rainbow babies after the baby that they lost, and it's kind of mixed. Some of my friends have told their children, and they've invited and figured out a way that they can include their living children and the sibling that has passed. And some are like, I don't want to burden my child with that. And
Mm,
they for them they look at it as it's extra pain that maybe the kid doesn't have to go through. And they're torn between whether they'll say anything at all or they'll wait until they're a little older.
yeah.
And everybody has, the right to do it how they want. I get a little nervous when they're little girls because I'm like, what happened? We don't want this to happen, but we do know that it happens. And until there's a way that it can be prevented, it's likely to continue to happen. And so I don't know, but it's based on the family. There's also a couple real quick. There's a few, and I don't have any down here with me, but there's two really good books for parents who are trying to figure out a way to share with their living children what happened with their sibling. And one is actually by Antoinette McDonald. I don't know if she had a chance to watch, but she's also a lost mom, and she wrote a book, Mama Where's Baby? And the kids in
Mm,
the book look just like me and you because Antoinette looks like me and you. And so,
right.
we have these other books for other races, but we didn't have anything to help explain to our little Black boys and girls what happened to their sibling. And so her book kind of helps walk the family through how to tell the siblings that either one were already at home waiting because they've seen
Mm-hmm.
mommy's belly grow, and then now they
Mm-hmm.
come home and there's no baby, or it helps mom and dad or the parents explain to the kids that were born after why they may celebrate a certain day or light candles or butterflies.
Mm.
It helps them kind of incorporate it. So that book, Mama Wears Baby, is by Antoinette McDonald, and Dear Star Baby is by Malcolm Newsome. So you have a male and a female perspective, mom and dad's perspective. So both books are pretty good.
Yeah. You know, I I know that the way that our communities have kind of been, and being so close hold, and now having actual people who look like us writing about these these situations and giving us something to as a resource. It's so important. Like, these are groundbreaking, like, grassroots efforts, to break the chain, the generational chain of just being silent and not really talking through these things. So let's now write books, articles, publications, have conversations like this, to so people will know that this is something that we need to, you know, have some discussions about,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not be afraid to share your story when you can. I think that's important too. Sometimes we want to force people to tell us, kind of like tell us all the things, and people are just not ready to share all it because it's very emotional. So um from your experience with the nonprofit and as the leader, because now you're the CEO, you know, of this organization, what are some takeaways? Kind of what are some, I just say some challenges, all right, and then what are the rewards, if you will,
Yeah.
for nonprofits?
I'd say the challenges, especially with the topic that we're dealing with, is nobody wants to talk about it. People see me coming and
They like,
they
oh,
go the other way. They're like, and they want to talk, but they're like, oh, it's so sad. They're trying to figure out a way to engage in the conversation, but not be so depressed and sad and brought down.
yeah,
So I think that is a challenge. But even as you can see, like I'm not always smiling because I do cry. I miss my daughter every
yeah,
day. Um,
yeah.
and I've learned to carry the joy and the grief because in order to be able to speak, and like you said, there's a lot who are never going to share their story, and that's okay because I got you. I'm out
Mm-hmm.
here, and I'm gonna make sure
Right.
that we get the support we need, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's one of the challenges is just really having people. So I thank you for opening up your platform and being willing to have the conversation. That's the first challenge to overcome is having folks that are willing to have the conversation.
Absolutely.
The other challenge is, again, having folks understand that it's not, yes, women are the ones who carry the baby, and maybe some people might argue are the greatest impacted. It depends on who you talk to, right? But we're
Yeah.
not the only ones impacted. I think having, again, the community understand just like it takes a village to raise a baby, it takes a village to support the family that lost their baby.
Mm.
So reminding people that it's the mom, the dad, the birthing parent, the non-birthing parent, the church. People are waiting for this baby at church. They've been waiting. The daycare that you've already sought out, who was waiting. Like there's so many people that are waiting for this baby. So really getting folks to understand that yes, we have the statistics, 1 in 4, 21,000, but seeing the faces on
Mm.
these numbers
Mm.
because that's what really matters is looking at the faces of the moms, the dads, the siblings. So that's the other challenge. And then with any nonprofit or business in general, funding, is it can be a challenge. Gratefully, we've been able to operate these last 6 years through individual donations and grants, and so we've been blessed to have that support. We could always do more with more, and so that's a challenge that I would say. And then um, the rewards are being able to speak up for those who just are not comfortable. Anytime I
Yes.
have this kind of conversation, or anytime we're out in the community at a table, somebody comes over and they're like, "Thank you." And they never say anything else. So I don't know what I'm like, oh, well, something happened for you, something touched you that you're grateful for, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
So being able to have a safe space for folks to talk. And it really, it really lights my heart up. It's probably the right word. People, I use weird words, even though it's like a sad thing, but it's still, I'm happy that we're able to provide this support. So it really
Yeah.
lights my heart up to have men come over to our table and they're like, do y'all offer services for men? Like, what do you do for the dad? And then they will talk about their experience.
Mm.
And so that's just even gain because we know men don't always share their feelings. And so being able to tap into that and the
Yeah.
impact that this has on the man or the partner is huge for me. So I love to see that. And then I think the last reward that I'll mention is so many, but one of the others is just being able to honor the babies. If anyone goes to our website, we have a remembrance wall. It's really important to say their names. So looking at it's sad to see so many names, and I like the and
Mm.
because you can have and. It's sad to
Yeah.
see so many names, and it's beautiful to say them, to read them, to hold space for them, and to acknowledge that, they matter. Those babies
Yeah.
matter. A lot. And I have one more reward. The last reward, because I mentioned when I was talking that I had go, hey, Precious.
Hey, precious.
I mentioned that, I had done 2 months at the bank. I used to work for BB&T a long time ago in West Virginia, 2 months at Ticketmaster doing retail sales. And I will say mission driven work is my thing. Like that's my
Yeah.
jam. That's one of the most
Well, you know,
rewarding
we in the
things.
same boat. Yes.
Yes, to be able to
Yes.
make an impact and not have anybody counting your numbers and did you make X amount of calls and X amount of sales, but just knowing that every single one counts and the impact that you make on that family
Yeah.
is amazing. So I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And you're the right person for it, right? So I feel like it's just, you know, something that you're going to be doing for a very long time. And, I get to witness from afar, kind of how your journey is going. And it's such a beautiful thing because it's needed. And you're talking about like taking care of other families. So how do you take care of yourself? Because you know, when other people are dealing with this heavy topic, unfortunately, sometimes we carry a lot of other people's grief. So, how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah. So just like I encourage my families to go to therapy, Sadija goes to therapy. Okay. I
Okay, there we go.
I am in therapy to help manage my own stuff. And then, like you said, the stuff that I take on of other people that I'm trying to help them manage. So one, I go to therapy. Two, I'm in women's groups, so I'm around other women who either have experienced something similar, they have some challenges. We get to love up on each other, and I'm not the professional in the room. I'm not on, right? I get to come to
Right.
this group and actually absorb and just be a part of it and receive the love and not have to work, if you will.
Yeah.
I try to get out and walk. I don't walk as often as I would love to, but I try to stay active. I do a little bit of walking here and there. I get to work out once a week. I'm trying to get it to 3 times a week, but I'm at
Right.
once right now.
You work in progress. You
I'm
good.
slowly getting there. I make sure, I get rest. I take
Yeah.
naps. People laugh. I need my rest. I take naps. I need to get some rest. I need to get some
We were
rest.
talking about naps and like how guilty, well, I know for me, I felt guilty when I was still serving to be laying down because if you're not up
Mhm.
and moving, then you lazy, right? You must not be working hard enough. And so, but I found out that it was necessary. Like I need to recharge. I need to lay down, get my thoughts together, and then get back up. And so I practice that a lot more than I did. But, even a power nap, like 10, 15 minutes of just, hey, let me just lay down, fall asleep a little bit, And so, yeah, I love that you incorporated that into your routine or your schedule.
Yes, naps are life and rest. Sometimes I just sit still and I don't
Ah,
always fall asleep, but I'm just there. I'm not on my computer. I'm not on my phone. I'm not answering the emails. I'm just resting. Sometimes I fall asleep doing that. And the other
y-
times but just to be still, because like you said, always on the go. That's really hard for me. So I try to be still at least 15 to 30 minutes a day.
yeah. That's good. That's so good for all of us to be reminded of y'all. Okay.
Yes.
So Chevy, her comment about mission work was yes, mission driven work, it's where it's at. I shared with my friend this morning that I want to do more mission driven work to make a bigger impact. Yeah, I
Mm.
think that, in today's time, this is what people want to do more with their time, because I really feel like when COVID, people started to evaluate and started to prioritize
Mhm.
what they
Mm.
were doing. And so, having that impact to serve more people is something that I'm definitely enjoying in this next chapter. And then Denise says, I schedule my naps, and
Yes.
she says, no guilt.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
And Precious says, yes, rest is so important. It is.
It is.
Again, we take it as another way of, well, you're not doing anything. And when, okay, I'm resting because I need to do stuff. I can't just be going hard in the paint all day.
Mhm.
Denise said, mission driven work is why I became a grant writer. I love that.
Yes.
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 And then Kate Ron, I am working to unlearn the mindset of taking naps are a
Mm.
waste of time. Naps are necessary. Yeah, because we have been conditioned. All right, y'all. We have been told if you're laying down, you're not working hard enough.
Mhm.
And then think about all the things that we have to do in our day, so wellness is so important. So y'all, like, let's make sure. And we know you are, okay? We know you are. Leslie is like, she take her nap, and on Sundays, don't call her after she come back from church. Right? She laying down for a couple hours, you
Listen,
know.
it's necessary. And I was looking, I was trying to find it, so I did find it. There's a young lady who leads the NAP ministry. So ladies, look her up on Instagram. It's called the NAP Ministry. And I'm telling you, it will. I was like, let me find this. She has a book too, and I can't find the name of the book. But if you go to the NAP Ministry and read all about it, you'll find her book and understanding that NAP save lives.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a thing, right? And Latricia
Mhm.
says, I have grown into napping. Yeah.
Yes, when we was little, we ain't want to take naps. Now I'm like, "Ooh, it's nap time, honey."
Yeah,
Yes.
that's for kids. These little kindergartners, lay your head down on the table. Don't care if you need a nap or not. And then now it's like, ooh, I should have took advantage of that. But but yeah, I think that is so important, and I'm thankful that you shared that with our audience as well. And so, nonprofits is business, if you will, okay, because you receiving money and you're using it to help others, right? So what are some of your business, challenges, maybe some things that you didn't know about business that you had to learn or relearn? What would you share with our audience? Because I have a lot of entrepreneurs who come and listen to the show.
Mhm.
So what have you found?
I think the first thing, like you said, just remembering that a nonprofit is a business. Nonprofit is a tax status. We are still a business. You still need to run your organization like a business. Make sure you're legally registered. Make sure you out here asking for money. Make sure you are registered as a charitable organization. Can't be out
Girl,
here riding dirty asking people for money. You got
riding
to
dirty.
and not be riding dirty. Make sure everything is legit. And I think one thing that we forget or just is not at the front of our mind is a nonprofit is a public entity. It's not like your own business where you can, do what you need to do on the background. You can move money around and make things work. As a nonprofit, all of that's transparent. Any given moment, somebody can come to me and say, let me see your 990. Let me see
Ooh.
this. Let me see your list of board of directors. Where do they work? It's public information. I do not own this. Blood, sweat, and tears, yes, but it is not mine. It is a public organization. So I
Woo.
think that's one thing that I always remind people when they want to start a nonprofit. You don't own it. If you're looking for something to pass to your kids and to everybody else, this is not the route you want to go. It's not for you, homie. You could do it on. You could always volunteer and sew into someone
Right.
else's, but this is not what you want.
Yeah.
It's not what you want.
Yeah,
So
because I
definitely.
heard a whole lot of stuff about nonprofits and some people just not really taking it in for that and misappropriation of funds, you
Yes.
know, you can get jail time.
Absolutely.
So,
Don't play
when
with these
you're,
people money because it's public money. It's public funding. You can't play with it.
yeah,
IRS is not playing with you.
you know, even as I said, let them know. Okay, let them
Yes.
know straight up. It's good. Like I love when people say I'm going to start a nonprofit or I have a nonprofit, but understanding, right? All the ins and outs of running and leading a nonprofit. And some people have nonprofits and then they have their business, like they have two things going on at the same time. These shall never mix. All right, like they shouldn't be joining hands, getting booed up or anything. So I'm just saying, some folks want to do these things, but we got to be very careful and mindful. So what else you learn?
Yes, yes, do it right. And I see Chevy's comment. So nonprofiting is my jam. Like that's my thing. I love it. So if you have questions or you want to connect with me afterwards, I'm open to answering any questions. The other thing that I learned is build your team. I mean, just like any other business, you can't do it by yourself. It's your idea and that's great, and build your team. Find folks who believe in your vision, who believe in your
Mm,
mission, that will help you push it forward. That's one thing I'm forever grateful for. It's not easy to get a good team, and you have the ebbs and flows, but I'm
mhm.
forever grateful for because it's volunteer work. The board is
Yeah.
volunteers. They are giving of their time, their talent, their money, their resources, their connections. So really building a good team will help you move that mission forward. So that's one thing. When you're running your own business, you could solopreneur. Yeah, I'm solopreneur. But as a nonprofit leader, you're not solo. So you have to make sure you build a good team, build a great team, and just,
Right.
connect with people. And the last thing I'll say is people say, oh, you don't like to, I'm really not a public speaker. Like, I don't really like to talk and be out, but you have to
Yeah.
get out there.
Yeah.
That's one thing about business in general and nonprofit specifically. You got to tell the story. What's the why behind the organization? What's the work that you're doing? Why should people give to you? Because it's a lot of fundraising. That's one thing about fundraising is real. If you're scared to ask for money, go back in the gym, work your work your ass muscle out a little more, and come on because you're gonna have to. So you got to get comfortable with telling the story and being
Yeah.
able to ask for money.
Yeah. Goodness, y'all, she dropping all kinds of gems in here. Okay, because she been through the ropes, so she know exactly what's going on. So even Denise said, yes, I tell nonprofit founders all the time. The main differences between a for-profit and nonprofit is how that money is distributed. Trans Transparency and compliance. Former tax preparer and accountant here.
Thank you, Denise.
You,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
And Chevy said she's gonna reach out. She's laughing with us because this thing can't be talked enough. Because you know what I have found, because we moved here from South Dakota, and I had never lived in the DMV, except for Langley, like Hampton, Virginia. But coming here and getting into the business, and there's so many nonprofits out here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people got a mission. But the sad reality is some of these nonprofits aren't lasting. They're not sustainable. They have had some issues with them. Then they start another nonprofit. I see it in here and I'm like, woo. So we got to be careful, y'all. Got to be careful. And we got to be careful who we giving our monies to and
Yes.
donating our time to.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, she said, asking you shall receive.
That's right. Get up off your ass if you're gonna run a nonprofit. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, okay, so you've been in nonprofit for like 20 years or so, right?
Yeah.
And in this particular nonprofit for how long?
7.
7, right? So you have gotten over the 5-year, because it's like the 5-year hump, most people say, for both business and nonprofits. And so you have done the work. And Chevy says, yes, they're not lasting, don't have leadership, but you have proven the leadership, all right, the leadership skill that you have. to sustain a nonprofit for this long. And so, what are some of the characteristics, if you will, of what your leadership has done for this nonprofit? Like,
Ooh. I'd say one is kind of humanize it, if you will.
yeah,
I think again, people see nonprofits, and we are begging because we do need the money, right?
you
But
said
I think
begging.
listen, if like this, oh, here go they asking for money again. Oh, they asking for money again. But I think really humanizing like where the dollar goes. I think it's
Yeah,
important to understand that yes, they're asking for money, but what is that $20 that you're giving them? What's going to happen with that? What kind of impact does it make? What does my $50 do for the organization? So I think that's one thing is really humanizing it. And the other piece is bringing together people from diverse backgrounds. Like if you look at our board and even our volunteers, like there's people from all over. Like we have a board member from Texas, and they're from different industries. We have public health, we have HR, we have legal, we have accounting and finance. So bringing folks together that maybe would not have met,
yeah,
um, and then you go through the team building phase, right? The storm and norm and form. And so bringing those personalities together and watching people form relationships, not only to move the mission forward, but then outside they begin working together on other projects. So I'm really good at relationship building.
yeah,
I like doing that. And the other thing is looking at the numbers behind it, right? So again, this is not, I can't run this organization like I do my personal bank book, right? I have to take a look at what we're spending it on. I'm working really closely with the treasurer. And so I have an MBA, so I do have some finance background. No one likes finance unless you're an accountant.
nope,
Ugh.
sure don't.
But
I
I've
know
had to
I don't.
learn. I've had to learn, right? Because you can't just put your money, the organization's money, in somebody else's hands and trust that they're going to do it, right? You have to at
Mhm.
least know how to check and balance and what you're looking for to oversee it. So that's another thing, just learning that, and then finding the right people. I think I'm really good at identifying talent and skill. That's not my jam, but I got two people on my team who that's their jam, and they will knock the
Right.
numbers and the budgets and financial statements out. So that's the other piece. And I would just tell folks, if you're looking to start a nonprofit, one thing to start is volunteering at somebody else's organization
Yeah, yeah,
to see how they work and what they're doing, um,
yep.
to see if you even really need to start another nonprofit. If there's a need for it, like you said, yet another organization. It's over 1.2, I think it was 1.5 the last time I looked, million nonprofits in the world. Um,
Wow.
and so sometimes there's opportunity for collaboration. Maybe you don't need
Yeah,
to start another one. Maybe you could take your program or project to one that's already started. Um, and so, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's great. And Denise said for
For
profit
profit.
thing too. Yeah, we do it in a different way. All right. We do it in a different way. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I too agree to volunteer for another nonprofit because I'm volunteering for Success in Style, and
Yeah.
so they're a nonprofit. And I just wanted to kind of see behind the scenes and kind of see how, where their money is going and how they work that's the back end of it. And so, we there are opportunities to go and see whether or not you can collaborate. And I think that's a really great idea. Chevy says, yeah, that's a great idea too. So and yes, we beg.
The difference though is this is what I have to remind folks and myself too. The difference is for profits are begging, but there's an exchange, right? That's easy to describe. For a nonprofit, there is an exchange, but you got to work a little bit more on how this makes you feel good. How do you impact the community versus having a
Right.
product or something that you can say, yeah, I gave $25 and I got this book. You have something to show for it per se.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's so true. It's
yeah.
it's so true. Okay, so we are coming up on the hour, of course, and I knew we were going to have a great conversation about what you're doing and how you're making positive impact in our community. So I've got a couple of questions here yet still. So first of all, for folks that are looking to see what you're doing, where you're at, like where should they find you at? I know you got a gala coming up. Okay, the queen gonna come in the gala because I was like, wait a minute, let me get on, let me see the dates and let me figure out what I'm gonna be wearing. You know, I gotta go through a whole thing. But you got tell us what you got going on.
Yeah, so we do have a gala coming up November the 22nd. It's called Raising the Sales. This is our very first gala. So it's an inaugural gala. It's really to celebrate the impact and the achievements that we've had over these past 6 years, five to be exact. We're marking 2019 to 2023. And
Okay.
so celebrating the impact and the achievements, getting dressed up, partying for a purpose, coming out and hearing the families that we serve firsthand, hearing from them. There'll be some keynote speakers. We have Dr. Renee Boss, who is from Johns Hopkins, and she will be speaking on just what we talked about, the disparities, and really honing in on what the care looks like on the medical side. We'll have another keynote speaker from the community. The councilwoman at large from Montgomery County will be there. And so she'll be speaking on what it's like to get involved from the community and the advocacy perspective. There'll be food, there's a complimentary bar, there'll be music. It's a Friday night, so come out and join us if you can. It'll be in Silver Spring, Maryland. You can go to our website. The website is bornintosilence.org. There you'll see all of our events. We do have some support groups, as I mentioned, a meet and greet if you're local too, August the 24th. You can come to our headquarters, see our building, see the space where we host our support groups and meet our team, meet some other businesses in the area, some networking, and some light refreshments. That's on August the 24th.
Mm.
And I got to do a plug for those folks who are looking to get involved. You want to learn the behind the scenes, and this is a cause that you care about or you're passionate about. We are looking for a board secretary. So if you're an administrative powerhouse and you keep good records and can keep everybody on the board informed, you get good on your email notes, please seek to join us. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
we are
like
looking
that's not
for that.
me. So like go on out there, get that together.
Oh, who's coming to the area? Chevy, yes, come on
Yeah,
out
Chevy said
November.
she want to come on
Ah,
out here.
come on out
We talk every
November.
day, and I always tell her this sort of stuff going on out here is crazy. How we moving and shaking out here. So, Precious says congratulations, and Denise says, "Is it remote?"
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
see,
ma'am.
Denise,
Yes, ma'am.
you
Yes,
better get
ma'am.
with Sadija, okay?
Please reach out. I can send you some information that you can peruse and take a look and see if it's something you want to have a more discuss a little more about. It is remote. We do have a remote.
Right. And then you had a birthday
I
and you
did.
had a fundraiser.
I did.
So is that still open
So
for?
I'm glad you asked about the fundraiser because here's what's new. So August is National Black Business Month, and it's also Black Philanthropy Month. And
Oh,
so yes, so we are participating in two please refer who you know. Look, I read the comments and I talk at the same time. Please do refer. We are open to referrals, Chevy. Thank you. Yes, family and friends, come on out, Denise. We got
yeah, we
something
here.
get
Yeah.
a table. Come see us. Come see us. Um, but we're participating in two fundraisers for the month of August. August 9th, there's a 24-hour Give Black for Black-led organizations here in the greater Baltimore area. So we're participating in that. I'll have to give the website because it goes live 12 a.m. August 9th and it runs into 11:59. So that Friday for 24 hours, will be participating in the Give Black campaign, and there's a lot of prizes and things. We have a small goal. Our goal is $750, so it's not a large goal. We're hoping to achieve that. And then on August the 28th, there's another Give Black campaign that we're participating in, and that also is for 24 hours. So there's a couple of different opportunities throughout the month of August for folks to give and participate with Black Philanthropy Month. So we're excited about that as well.
That's awesome. I love that. So y'all pull out your wallets. All
I told
right.
y'all. I
If
told
you
I
have
tell
the
you.
desire to do so. Okay.
Yes.
I'm not forcing anybody, but I'm just saying, If you want an organization to give monies to, this would be a great organization right here. Okay, you
Yeah.
heard it here. All right,
Yeah, or share.
or
Please,
share.
yep, you could definitely share it with anybody in your network.
Yeah. Okay, and so my last question, and they said, love it. This is exciting.
Yay!
My last question for every guest is, at your 80th birthday party. So I'm going to my aunt's 80th birthday party on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
And I know people are going to say some great things about her. I'm already kind of figuring out what I'm going to say. But anyway, what would you like your family and your friends to say about you?
Mm. I want them to say that she never gave up. I
Mm.
want them to say she never gave up. Like, I've been through some stuff. Clearly, I lost my daughter. I've had a divorce. There's been some challenges as a parent. Like, I've been through some stuff, but I never gave up. So I want them to
Mm.
say she never gave up. I also want them to say she inspired me to keep going. I
Yeah.
hope that by me sharing whatever piece of my story is applicable, that encourages the next person, not even just a woman, the next man, woman, child, to keep going. And I want them to say, "She made time for me." Whenever I called her because I'm big. I'm gonna blow up. I'm be all over the world. I'm gonna be all over the world. But I am not gonna forget people. And I want them to say,
Yes.
even though she was traveling all around the world, she was getting all this money, making all this stuff happen. She made time for me. I text her and she responded, not her assistant. She came to my
Yes.
party. She came to my kid's graduation. Like, that's what I want them to say.
Oh, I think a lot of us want that to be said about what we do and how we do it because we can't get it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the moment, it's so much going on, but at the end of the day, it's you and how you represented yourself and what did you contribute to when they reached out and said, "Hey, I just want to talk." You know what I mean? I absolutely love it. And I know that's what they're going to say, Queen.
Aw.
Okay? That's what they're going to say. All
Wait,
right,
look,
because
the last thing I want them to say is, "Sit down." I'm be on the dance floor, honey. I'm be Eddie. I'm be on that dance floor. They gonna say,
that's me.
"Sit down."
Girl, don't put no music on, and especially these line dances. I got them on lock. Okay, so
Listen.
every one of them I have learned, and I'm on there. Like my husband be like, "Whew, well, okay." He just sits here and he just watches Queen. But I'm like you. That music goes on. If I'm 80, I am dancing.
Mhm.
Yes, I love that. So I just want to thank you so much for coming here and being a guest on the Slay to Success Talk Show. But truly being a woman that we absolutely see just doing amazing things. And this is a tough nonprofit. Okay. It's tough to do what you're doing, but you are doing it well and you're getting the support. And I just absolutely love that you came on here and was very open to sharing. And so we got, several conversations. I love that she made time for me. So many times we want something from us just to let us be is a gift. Yes, I love that. Chevy's also on the dance floor too. Like,
Listen.
yeah, yeah, hey, that's our thing. And Denise says, thank you for the conversation. So, y'all, make sure you subscribe and you share because you never know who may need this. Maybe they're going through something right now, right? And you can actually have a podcast, talk show, whatever you like to call it, that you can tell them, hey, just go listen. And then they can reach out to Sadija, and Sadija will be able to give them more resources and support, especially if they are very if they're in the DMV area. I mean, she can be there like face to face and they can, come to her. So thank you so much for y'all being here. I cannot say this enough. So we're gonna go back here. I just want to make sure, from the top, that I don't miss nobody on these comments, but y'all just gave value here. So Chevy, K. Ron, Denise, Leslie, um, and then of course Mosaic Sparks, which is Leslie, but we had to say that. Precious. Um, who else we got on here, y'all? Latresa, uh, Kim. Kim is in the building. Thank you so much, ladies. And thank you for sharing that with us because we definitely wanted to make sure that we were here and providing this type of information. So, next week, y'all, you know what time it is up in here. We're going to have another guest, and she's just going to be as amazing as Sadija was. And we're going to bring another conversation to y'all. So, thank you so much for y'all being here. Keep on slaying, okay, as we say, until you can't slay no more. And we will see you all next week. We love you. Bye bye.